Hello, welcome Dr. Sushma Singh this side. Today in Unit 24 Secularization we start our lecture with topic Secularism and the Indian National Movement. The leadership of the freedom struggle therefore had to devise a principle that could be capable of holding together people who subscribed to different faiths. This holding mechanism was provided by secularism. Nationalist movement, on the other hand, fought the colonial government for the goal of a united free India. It sought to enlist the support of all religious groups in its nationalist struggle. This was not a secularism that commands the separation of religion and politics, but a secularism that ensures the equality of all faiths, Sarva Dharma Sambhavna. Communalism had a devastating effect on India's national life, finally resulting in the partition of the country and wide-scale communal riots. It therefore came to be regarded as the greatest challenge to, or even negation of, both nationalism and secularism. The nationalist leader very soon realized that they had to fight two enemies simultaneously, one the British imperialist power and the second communalism within India. They saw in secularism an ideology that could serve both their purposes, that is, the fight or controvert communalism and provide a basis for a united Indian nation, which in turn would strengthen the nationalist movement for India's independence. A nation can survive only when all sections of the populace share a sense of communal nationality and to that extent transcend their limited regional, ethnic, linguistic or religious identities. In the word of Nehru, possibly the most essential characteristics of national consciousness is a sense of belonging together and together facing the rest of mankind. Since communal loyalties are the greatest hurdle in the emergence of a national consciousness, the latter can be founded only on a secularist ideology. 19th and early 20th century saw an overwhelming rise in Indian nationalism. The Congress-led nationalist movement included persons with varying shade of opinion. It was therefore not entirely free from communalist element, but its main thrust was towards a nationalist, secularist and democratic ideology. Unlike the social reformers and revivalist ideology of that period, the leaders of Indian National Congress were secular in their approach to national problems. For the founders of Congress, national identity and the interest of the nation as a whole were all inclusive and transcended the differences of religion, caste, language, etc. The report of the second session of the Congress made its secular and nationalist character clear. The Congress is a community of temporal interest and not of the spiritual convictions that qualify men to represent each other in the discussion of political questions. We hold their general interest in this country being identical. Hindus, Christians, Muslims and Parsis may be members of their respective communities, represent each other in the discussion of public secular affairs. During the first decades of its existence, Congress was dominated by leaders like Dadabhai Naoroji, Surendranath Banerjee and Gopal Krishna Gokhale. They were known as moderates who believed in rationalism, secularism, constitutionalism and liberalism. They were gradually replaced by more extremist leaders like Bipin Chandra Pal, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and Lala Lajpat Rai. These leaders were strong nationalists, but there was a religious ting in their speeches and actions, such as idealization of Shivaji and Rana Pratap and popularization of the religious festivals associated with Durga and Ganesh. Vipin Chandra had argued that both the shift in the Muslim leaders' stand from a nationalist one to the communalist one, and the religious sting in the speeches and actions of the extremist leader as compared to the rational liberal and stand of the moderates were due to the compulsions of the mass politics. All of them knew that religious idioms, symbols, and the talk of the religion being in danger would have much greater appeal for masses than any secular ideology. In spite of this religious sting, the nationalism of Congress leaders was very different from that of Hindu chauvinists and other communalists. Their concept of the nation was territorial, that is, included all the inhabitants of India, irrespective of their religious creed or any other differences. They emphasized equally on status for all the inhabitants of India, whatever their religion. Gandhi repeatedly affirmed, India cannot cease to be one nation because people belonging to different religions live in it. If the Hindu believes that India should be peopled only by Hindu, they are living in a dreamland. The Hindus, the Mohammedans, the Parsis, and the Christians who have made India their country are fellow countrymen. In no part of the world are one nationality and religion synonymous terms, nor has it ever been so in India. Another basic difference between Indian nationalism and so-called Hindu and Muslim nationalism lies in their respective attitudes toward religion. While the latter made religion the basis of both the individual's and community's identity and all their secular interests, Indian nationalism firmly asserted the irrelevance of religion for India's nationhood. Though all the nationalist leaders, with the exception of two Nehrus, were men of religion who accepted it as a worthy dimension of human life, they at the same time affirmed the need to separate religion from secular national concerns. They believed the national integration or the sense of national identity could be achieved only if Indians set aside their religious identities and joined hand in the freedom struggle. Mahatma's effort to integrate the lower caste Hindus into the larger Hindu society, as well as his efforts to bring Muslim and another religious minorities into the national mainstream, were expression of nationalist leaders to a large extent. This approach implied a total rejection of communalism, but frankly accepted the desirability and importance of religion in a person's life. Further, religion was not bete nor or of Indian ideologues and nationalist leaders, as it was in the post-Reformation West. In India, religion never tried to question scientific discoveries or the use of scientific technology in everyday life. More importantly, religion was never perceived by Indian nationalist leaders and scholars of the crucial decades before independence as the cause or source of the miserable condition of Indian masses. Instead, the colonial rule was perceived as the chief or only source of the misery and backwardness of the people. The solution to India's problem was again visualized as the attainment of independence rather than the negation of religion. The emphasis is in most nationalist leaders from Gandhi to Patel and Azad was on the acceptance of the fact of existence of separate religious communities, while at the same time seeking to neutralize this fact by a great emphasis on the need and value of their peaceful existence in one nation society. On the other hand, religious identity was not important for Nehru, who emphasized a secular national identity rather than peaceful coexistence of different religious communities. Thus, the Indian nationalism was based on the perception that our nation is constituted by a people who share common everyday problems and endeavor together to achieve common goals of freedom, democratic rights, and a just social order. Here we want to close this lecture. Thanks for listening.